What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Ghouls Gaming and Tech channel. Now we are here with one of the most anticipated games, for better or for worse, of 2025. We have Assassin's Creed Shadows right here. If you are new to the channel and you don't know, I usually do a best visual and gameplay settings video for most of the games that I'm pretty much interested in, just to give you guys a better idea on how to play a certain game, and what settings that might help you out, just depending on your play style and things like that. But I always have to give a disclaimer, because some people say, well, I usually do this and you recommended this. Put whatever settings you want. This is not the end all be all video, but I've been playing games since I was a kid. I know tons of gamers and I love visually stunning games, and I just want you guys to get the most out of your game. So these recommended settings that I'm going to show you is just based on years of experience and what I get, feedback from other gamers, and also just knowing what these certain settings mean for your actual gameplay. If you're new, make sure to subscribe. If you're new or returning, make sure to hit that like button by the end of the video. If you enjoy this content, it's the best way that I and YouTube knows you guys enjoy this type of video. So we are here on the startup screen, boot up screen. So if you want to go into your settings from this, just press, and this, I'm on a PS5 Pro, just to keep that in mind. I'm playing on a PS5 Pro. If you're playing on PC or whatever the case is, you can apply some of these settings as well, but obviously there's going to be a PC setting in the settings, so you can change your keyboard and mouse. Now, with that being said, this is supposedly a pro enhanced game. That's what it says. And it actually, I don't want to give it crap. I just rather have a pro option in the settings when it comes to visual quality and things like that, because it just makes it easier. Instead of trying to pick between performance, quality, balance, and all that stuff, just give me a pro setting that shows, hey, this is a great blend between both of these, so you don't have to try to figure it out yourself. This game doesn't have that pro setting. You have to basically pick between performance and all that stuff, but it is enhanced. So I just want to give you guys that disclaimer. So press your touchpad on your controller, go down to System, and then click on Options. All right, so when it comes to the graphical quality or performance and fidelity of the game, again, I'm showing you guys this example on the PS5 Pro. I know it's kind of up in the air on what people usually prefer. Most people prefer performance mode in most games because it offers the 60 frames. Well, throughout my testing, and this is just my opinion, performance and balance, complete trash as far as the visual quality. Like, yeah, it runs a little bit smoother, but the way the game looks is just an eyesore to me, that a game that's coming out in 2025 still looks like that. The best way to play this is in quality, hands down. Granted, it's locked in at 30 frames, but it is a smooth 30 frames, and the image clarity itself is very crisp and smooth, and it looks nice. You really, you notice the 30 frames, but it's not as bad as it usually is in most games. And again, that's a testament to the Pro. It kind of blends those 30 frames and the 60 frames as far as quality versus performance a little bit better. So I thought quality mode was going to look bad in this game as far as how it ran, and I thought it was going to be super choppy because of the frames per second, but it actually doesn't look bad as opposed to performance and balance. Just, yeah, it's smoother, but once you take the graphical quality away from the game, it just does not look good to me. So performance options, go with quality. Trust me, it will save you an annoyance of staring at a screen that looks that bad. This maximum luminance and exposure, I'll leave that the same. Chromatic aberration, I recommend turning that off. It just blurs out or distorts, edges of certain images during your gameplay. You don't really need that. I want the most sharp and crisp image as possible. So with that being said, you can turn that off and then play in performance mode and have a slightly sharper image, but that's just how you want to configure your gameplay. And then also motion blur, I'll leave that on. This is a open world type of game. This is not like a Call of Duty or Fortnite, so you don't really in those games you want to turn motion blur off. Motion blur is like the worst to play in those games, but for this game where it's more cinematic, storyline driven, leave motion blur on. All right, so once you finish with the video, go over to controls. Now this is where I say you have the difference between controller and mouse and keyboard. So if you are playing this on mouse and keyboard, as you can see right here, you have tons of options right here, but we don't have a mouse and keyboard set up, so there's no point in me changing this right now, and I don't even think I can actually. But if you go to controller, all this stuff, I will leave this default. As far as walking speed, auto movement, leave that off. Don't turn that on. Cinematics, interface, this stuff is just vibration. Orientation, you know, if you invert your X or Y axis, that's completely up to you. Sensitivity, dead zones, adaptive triggers. Obviously, if you have a PlayStation, you're gonna have those adaptive triggers. So then if you go to audio, make sure to turn your subtitles off unless you like them on. My rule of thumb is I like to be as immersed as possible in these type of storyline driven games, so I like to turn subtitles off, but your volume should already be preset to 100. So music frequency, and this says it adjusts the time it takes before exploration music starts when you're playing. So I was thinking about putting this on high, but I'd rather have it on normal, because I would assume after a while you're gonna get kind of annoyed where every time you, or the game thinks you're about to explore, it plays this music, and it's like, dude, I'm not even trying to like explore right now. I'm just, you know, moving from right here to over here really quick, and it plays music. So I can see how that might get pretty annoying. But if you don't mind that and it seems more immersed for you to put it on full or high, I recommend putting on high. But you know, the way I think this mechanic works, I'd rather just have it on normal. Dynamic range, it says adjust the volume difference between loud and quiet sounds. On full, sounds play at their natural volumes. On night, loud sounds are quieter, so on and so forth. So I recommend putting this on full. It's basically, like it says, to give you that dynamic range. So when you hear noise or, you know, sound effects or whatever that are in a distance, it's going to play it at that projected, or what that distance sound should be, instead of, you know, muting everything. Or if it's right up close to you or an explosion happens right near you, it's going to be a little bit louder because it's a explosion right in your FOV, you know what I'm saying? So put that on full. It defaults on, I think, medium. Yeah, I think it defaults on medium. Put that on full. Focus mix, it says amplify important gameplay sounds while reducing ambient sounds. Leave that off. Don't turn that on, in my opinion, because yeah, certain cinematic and cutscenes and things like that, it's going to amplify what you're actually controlling as far as your gameplay, like it says. But you know, if there's wind blowing or trees or, you know, animals in the distance, it's going to mute that stuff. I don't want that to happen. I want to hear everything in my environment. So leave that focus mix off. And then that is that for the general. But then if you click R2, go to captions, your subtitles are default on. Now I would only recommend to turn these on if you play in a certain mode that we're going to get to later, but I'm not going to be playing that certain mode. It's basically having everything in Japanese. I'm not doing that. So everything's going to be in English, so I leave subtitles off. Again, this is more so for that immersion. And then narration, describe cinematics. No, that's just them talking out loud. I don't need that visual audio feedback. Next thing, your interface. Safe zone calibration, I don't need to do that. It's already calibrated to my screen. Now, this is the next thing, your HUD. You can customize your HUD on how much you want it to show, how much you don't want it to show. I'm fine with pretty much what it shows. Again, I like to be as immersive as possible, or immersed as possible. So this is a setting that you can change later. So if you find out that you kind of got the mechanics down of the game, then you can go back into this menu and take off some of the stuff on the HUD that you might not want to use or you don't really care for. So as you can see, the HUD presets right here. If I click from default, you can see what starts to disappear, you know, things like that, until you completely have nothing on your HUD. Now, this is a new game for everybody, so I would imagine to begin the game, at least, you kind of got to get familiar with the details of the game, what's showing on the HUD, what it means, things like that. And then as you progress, you can slowly like get rid of stuff if you want to be that immersed. And that's something that I'll probably do. But if you want things in particular changed, you can change this, each icon, each setting of the HUD itself. So you don't have to just go by those default settings to, you know, make your HUD more immersive. HUD opacity. This is where you can have a little bit of customization, in a sense of you want your HUD showing until you get used to it, but you don't want it to overtake your screen. So I reduced this thing all the way to 50, as you can see on the screen. 100, all it does is it just dulls the brightness of your HUD. So I'd rather do that. It's kind of making me feel more immersed until I can remove things, but it's not completely taking away my HUD. And now we are on gameplay. So aim assist, you want to leave that at moderate unless you really have a difficult time with aiming at enemies. Then you can turn it to full, but it comes in moderate, so I would just leave that in moderate. Quick timed events. So this is like bamboo slicing and those things where you're transitioning from cutscene to actual gameplay, and it gives you a quick time event. I don't want this more complicated than it needs to be, so I put it on simplified. So instead of pressing multiple buttons, you press one button. And then area loot. This comes on as off when you start the game up, but you want to turn this on. So basically it says choose whether to collect all nearby loot with a single button press instead of collecting each item individually. This is basically useful when you go into a camp, you take everybody out, and everybody has loot laying on the ground. You don't have to trace your steps back and loot every single person, try to remember where every single person was when you took them down. This will now, if you took down a group of 3, instead of looting all 3 of them, you loot 1 and it will automatically give you the loot from the other ones. I think this is super useful and it will save tons of time. That is all in the actual settings themselves before you start the game. And then when you start the game, there's going to be another setting. So we're going to go to that one really quick. All right, so when you start the game, you will see these settings right here, your difficulty. Now, in my opinion and in my experience, Assassin's Creed games aren't too difficult to kind of figure out the gameplay mechanics, so on and so forth. So from everything that I've seen and played, I recommend putting your difficulty on expert. Now, what this really changes is your stealth gameplay. That's where you're going to see the most impact, and then your enemies. So instead of maybe taking them down in 10 hits, you got to take them down in 14 hits. But is it doable? Yes. And then once you start to play, you'll figure out, oh, it's not that bad. So definitely, if you played a Assassin's Creed game before, you will be just fine. Trust me. Guided exploration, leave that off. So canon mode is basically reduces your dialogue options. So if you can see right here, it says the default experience allowing you to influence Nawe and Yasuke's decisions during cutscenes. If you turn this on, it will reduce those decisions, and it won't seem like you're really picking what the what you want the character to say, and you won't even notice it because it won't even show that option. It'll just continue the dialogue like you never had a choice in the first place. But having this off or leaving this off allows you to pick certain options, and it will directly affect your gameplay. So just if you want to see different outcomes and you want to have more immersive or involvement in the dialogue, leave that off. That's basically what that is. All right, you guys, so once you get into the game, there's one more setting that I want you guys to take a look at. Is when you go to options, and you can't do this until you're actually in the game. It opens up like another option for you, but go to options and then go to gameplay and then difficulty tuning. So like I said, I recommend it being on expert, but right here where it says guaranteed assassination, I would turn this on. In my opinion, this is an Assassin's Creed game. Where in the world do you have an option where when you try to assassinate someone, it's not a guaranteed assassination? I recommend turning this on because I don't want to go to assassinate someone and I basically give them a surface wound or a scratch and they're just like, oh, what was that? Like, no, it's an Assassin's Creed game. When I go to assassinate someone, they should be gone. They should be done with. I shouldn't have to fight them more. Like, how does an assassination not work? I don't get it. So guaranteed assassination, even though I'm playing on expert mode, if I get the opportunity to assassinate someone, I want that to be done with. I don't want to continue to have to fight them and alert more people. The game is already in expert mode. All right, everyone, so those are going to be your best visual and gameplay settings for Assassin's Creed Shadows. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you recommend something else? How do you normally play the game? And did these options help you guys? As always, thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.